here locally in Gainesville discharges into Alachua Sink in the prairie, and we're going to make sure that that water, after this project is finished, is going to meet the natural background level. And by the way, in the process, we're going to create a great recreational area which is going to attract lots of birds and all kinds of other wildlife.
Okay, so let's, again, I want to find out now, we're talking about that, there are hearings going on. What is the end of this? Is this going to go on for another year, or when do we start seeing a result here?
If I may.
One way or the other.
As I understand, the EPA has just issued a draft rule. They're supposed to finalize it in October. That's for the inland waters. Next year, January, they're going to issue a draft rule for the coastal waters, and in October of that year, they will finalize it.
So, Representative Bembry, from the state's point of view, do you see the legislature trying to get involved in some way to try to slow this down or make some changes or modifications, or what do you see?
Well, I expect DEP to rise to the occasion. I think that EPA should work with DEP, on this process, and to do a good scientific study, something that's valid and definable. Because I think at this point in time, like I say, the one-size-fits-all attitude, and it's not being individualized to the body of water. And you can talk about what's across the road or down the street and compare the two, but they're always, the bodies of water are unique to themselves, and I think that's a very misleading area. And you get down to where we're at in this process. Somebody's going to have to be willing to pay the bill. And Florida business, and Florida agriculture, and small cities and counties that are all going to be paying that bill. And if there's anybody around that cares deeply about our environmental situation, I do. I care very deeply about it. And the last thing we don't want to do is to put our ecological situation at risk, because farmers, you'll find the more you stay around them, that they care very deeply, and they're very good at what they do. They follow their BMPs and best management practices, and they do that because they know that's the best thing to do.
Now there is a couple of pieces of jargon that I read in some of this involving impaired water or benchmarks. What is it we're talking about here?
Well, impaired water, I always say that's just a nice word for polluted. And if you look at, there's just a huge number of rivers and streams, I think 350,000 acres of lakes. There's a huge number of estuaries that are impaired, that the Department of Environmental Protection tells us. And they also put the disclaimer, this number is probably not large enough. Again, what I think the real issue here as Floridians is, what we're doing is not working. There are water quality problems from one end of the state to the other. And the question I think that is before all of us, and I agree, this is going to cost money, but it's an investment in the future of this state, because if we continue to see our environment degrade, including the springs that Representative Bembry is so blessed to have in his district, what will we have? Silver Springs, its flow is reduced, its nitrate levels. We have a significant water quality problem. And let me point out that there are businesses in Jacksonville and St. Johns County, in Clay County, that are impacted when the river is green and toxic. Small businesses who do boat, fishing, seafood dealers, all of that. There is an economic cost to this pollution that no one seems to want to talk about.
And Tom, this puts Florida at a very big disadvantage compared to the rest of the states. Florida has been singled out by the EPA. Waters that are coming into Florida from Georgia are not regulated in Georgia, but with this regulation, they would be regulated in Florida. And it's only because Florida has been doing such a good job at creating data points, at getting samples, that this lawsuit was brought up in the first place. Of the total surface water data in the entire nation, 30% of that data is from the state of Florida. 30%. We've been sampling water like crazy, and DEP has been doing that sampling primarily. And to say that we have been ignoring this, we Floridians have been ignoring this, is just asinine.
Let me just move over to a little different area. We talked a lot about agriculture and business. Homeowners in cities and towns that take care of their property and do landscaping and use pesticides and fertilizer and things like that. How much of an impact is it of the urban landscape that, you know, say here in Gainesville, that is entering into the water from here? Is there a way to track that and see if, in fact, people who are residents are contributing to this too?
I think the two big impacts from urban dwellers are fertilizer use, which has been going up, and septic tanks. And even here in Gainesville, we have a municipal sewer system, but you'd be shocked. I think there's something like 5,500 septic tanks in the metropolitan Gainesville area, some of them inside the city of Gainesville. It is a problem. Everybody has a role in this. This is not just about industry or agriculture. It's everybody's problem. But over half of the lakes and streams in this state are already impaired. And impaired is defined as there are too much pollution to the level where it now impacts the flora and fauna of that ecosystem. We're killing it. And we've got to stop while we still can save it.
When do you see this process coming to a close, where there is a final decision, and then is this something that you see somebody challenging legally in a federal court or something?
I certainly see the possibility of a challenge without sound science, and that's what's needed, and that's what's lacking. What is going on right now is the public comment period is open right now until March 29th. A lot of the public comments have been asking for an additional 30 days. Don't know if that's going to be granted, but nonetheless, as of right now, the comment period ends March 29th. Then the EPA will take those comments and review them, and as was mentioned earlier, it does become law on October, I believe, 15th, if I'm not mistaken.
And is there anything that you would hope do you think the EPA is going to keep to its numbers, or do you think people are going to chip away at it and scale it back, and are you able to live with that?
EPA may try to do that, but it also has to deal with the federal courts. And I certainly hope that we don't go to federal court again on this, because frankly, while we're in court, we're not fixing the problems that we have. And you know, I really need to take issue with the idea that sound science has not been behind these numbers. The EPA and DEP has very capable scientists. This is all based on over 800,000 sets of data from the state of Florida. And it's not true, to my understanding, that we are the only state with numeric nutrient criteria. There are several other states. We are the state that has been lagging behind. It's not that we haven't been ignoring the issue, we're just not doing enough.
And we're going to have to leave that as the last word. We're out of time. We are going to put up EPA's web address for you on the screen, so you can make your comments and read about what is being talked about. We want to thank all of you for coming in and discussing this issue. And we'll see you next time on North Florida Journal.